In this next segment, we'll talk about the deliverables from a penetration test. Now, this may be the comprehensive report where you deliver a report card per se to the customer to tell them how they did, but it also includes a lot of other things as well, and there's a lot of consideration that goes into the deliverables. The deliverables from the penetration test obviously include any reports that you're required to give them and artifacts. And artifacts could be additional things like technical findings and so forth, and we'll talk about those in a moment. Now, the deliverables are usually specified in the contract and in the agreements, and it will usually tell you the format that they want them in, the content that it needs to contain, even like the section headings and so forth. It also will tell you the delivery date, when you have to turn this in by, and the method. Maybe it's electronically, maybe they want 3 copies in PDF. It doesn't matter. The requirements in the agreements will drive how you turn this in. It may also determine the security that you want to keep this, like only certain people can see this report or can get the report. You probably won't just hand it over to the IT admin guy. Now, keep in mind that the test really isn't over until this report is completed and delivered to the customer. That's the last step. So what are your deliverables typically? Well, you have a comprehensive report that talks about what you did and how you did it and what you found. It answers the questions who, what, where, when, why, and how. Keep those things in mind. Your comprehensive report may include supporting artifacts and any attachments. So you might have screenshots in there to prove that you were able to exploit something, any log files from your systems or the target systems, and even command results that you could pipe to a text file, for example, and show. Typically, the report will have a step-by-step description of all the actions the team took during the test and describe what the effects on the system were and the organization itself. You also should probably have recommendations in there as to how to fix the vulnerabilities that you found and exploited. Another part of the deliverables, it could be separate, it could be part of the comprehensive report, but it's an outbrief to the senior executives in the organization. And they may invite other folks like the legal folks or their security folks and technical personnel. Even in an assessment where the organization is kind of kept in the dark, maybe it's restricted to only certain individuals like the chief security officer, you may be briefing those other folks at the very end once they find out that you've been doing a penetration test on them. So what are the parts of this comprehensive report and your deliverables? Well, there's just some basic things listed here that you might have. Some of these kind of make sense that you would put in there. An executive summary would basically be a really quick summarization, high level, for the senior executives in the company that would answer all the basic questions very succinctly. And then you might have sections that go into depth that talk about the methods you use, the processes, your procedures, what your overall strategy was. Now, obviously, there are things in this report that the company wants to keep private, like the exploits you were able to perform and the data you were able to get to. But there are things from your perspective you may want to keep that are proprietary. So you may not list all of your particular methods. You may not put your secret sauce recipe in here, for example, as how you actually did something, because you own that process. So only put it in there to the extent that the company requires. You definitely are going to be putting findings in the report, and these may be by system, categorized by system in general, or may be categorized by a department, like the IT department or the accounting department. In some cases, you'll put detailed technical data in there, like your scan results or your logs in there, and these may be an attachment to the report itself for the technical folks to look over later so they can follow along with what you did and figure out how you did it, and so they can figure out how to fix it. You will put your action logs in there with timestamps when you did something, performed a particular action, and if it's a technical thing, this may be timestamped automatically. You may have a program that does it. If it's something like a physical penetration, you have to manually log this stuff, but make sure that you do so that you know when something happens so they can compare it to their logs later. You will typically put system logs from your systems or the target systems in here, your scan results, like maybe from Nessus or Retina or whatever scan tool you use, screenshots in there proving that you were able to access something or you did something, because sometimes the organization won't catch it in their logs, and this may cause the administrator to say, no, they didn't really do that. So screenshots can always be helpful. You want to, in your findings, list the vulnerability that you found and how you exploited it, what exploits you used that you were successful with. And actually, in most cases, you may want to include failed exploit attempts and successful ones, because some vulnerabilities may be listed that are a high priority, but if you're simply not able to exploit them using a wide variety of exploits, that may mean that the organization doesn't have to spend a lot of time or money on that particular vulnerability if you've proven that it can't really easily be exploited. So include your failed exploit attempts in there as well. You may want to include all of your technical, operational, administrative findings, not just technical findings, but findings against weak operational procedures or weak administrator policies and so forth, because those count too toward vulnerabilities. In some cases, a team will put the mappings to any controls like NIST controls or DoD controls so that for compliance purposes, the organization can map those vulnerabilities and exploits back to a security control. You may want to reference the organization's own governance or guidance and standards to show them that they're in violation of things with their vulnerabilities, that they need to fix some things. Obviously, recommendations for mitigation or correction of these vulnerabilities should be in there as well. How do they fix this stuff? And in the end of the report, you're probably going to have a summary in there, and this may mirror some of the other things you've said in the report, but it will summarize everything you've done. And you also may want to include in there a path forward. Maybe a time frame for them to fix the vulnerabilities and a time frame for you to come back and retest them again as needed. And that opens up the grounds for new business as well with this company.